What's up, breakdancing fans? Hope you all had an awesome Olympics. Just kidding. Hey, this is Larry back at Snicker Fly. August, I don't know, 5th or 6th. Anyway, still playing. We're picking on our bass over here and having a lot of fun with those guys. Water temps are getting up there pretty good, which, you know, really kind of just gets those things more aggressive. I'm sure there's a max out. We're hovering under 80 out on the lake, and a little lower than that below the dam. So anyway, chasing the carp and the smallmouth's been a thing we really enjoyed a lot. Been throwing some bigger bugs, some Chernobyls, and a few little poppers and stuff like that, getting some results. But on the lake the other night, you know, throwing a damsel or a spent damsel, produced quite a few eats and some pretty decent fish. So we're gonna do our damsel that we do here. I mean, there's a ton of different damsel flies out there. There's a few quirks to some of them, I think, and some of them are pretty complicated. So, you know, for what it's worth, we'll kind of talk about ours. So, I'm just going to start out with a real good stout hook. This is the short shank heavy wire 7077 from MFC in a 10. We've just put it in the Renzetti. Excuse me. A lot of smoke in the air in P-Town today, probably the smokiest we've been for a while. Got myself some white Semper 6-aught or 6 waxed, and we got our hook in there, and just gonna go ahead and get started here. She's using a white thread. Most of this base gonna get covered up and whatnot. Still getting used to, but really kind of digging the curve on the Black Widows. Fitting the hand nice. Been pretty sweet. So we've got that, and we've just started our thread in the front, worked our way back to just above the barb. Now we're just going to take some of our bullwhip in a newer color. This is in the damsel blue. Bullwhip's a really cool material to use for this, and I'm going to tell you a couple reasons why. I've already cut a length and have my little dude pre-stripe them. I just said, man, pull that out and pre-stripe a whole bunch of it for us, would you? And anyway, he did. So this is bullwhip. I've got about 2 inches of it here. Could probably cut it down to 1.5 inches. I did do a little melt on the end. No biggie if you don't. But I'm just going to strap that on top 1.5 times the shank length of this 7077. It's a stout hook. It's got a down eye. Nothing crazy and fancy. We're going to put enough stuff on this. We'll have no problem floating. I'm just going to tie that on top, strap it up to a little bit behind the eye. So there's our little legs, or our little tail stuck in there, segmented. One thing about tying dragonflies that I've found over years, or tying, you know, even brown drake spinners, anything that's got a big kind of polywing profile, is that you can get a lot of twisting. You know, just aerodynamically, they fly more like a boomerang than they do a dart. And there's a few things that create that, but one of them is definitely having super light flies. So a lot of the foam damsels and dragons that we've tied and that we purchased and we've fished, you know, they tend to be a little front end heavy. That back end's just foam. And one, it's a bummer when it breaks off with the fish. Now you've just got basically a big blue blob. But two, that back end is super light and that front end is pretty heavy, and you've got a pretty big wing, or, you know, a foil going on the front of there, and they tend to twist. And when they land on the water, then they'll, you know, kind of start doing a little bit of tumbling, which isn't real natural. I imagine fired up bass would probably dig it that way, but having some weight on the back end that will kill this fly, kind of like fletches on an arrow, will keep it flying a little straighter. And it's also super durable, the color's right, hangs down in the water, etc., etc. So we're going to go ahead and tie in our next material, which is just some of our Pro Lam foam. This one is a 1 mil on top of a 2 mil, so it ends up being a 3 mil. This is a medium blue, aqua blue, with more of a dragonfly blue on top. Just gives us two-tone stuff, you know. We always like that on any of our dries to have a lighter colored belly than the top. So let's go ahead and tie this in right above that barb. I mean, I'm a touch forward, but just to back up what I'm talking about. It's a really good starting position on this style of sprout hook is thread hanging right over the barb. That's right at the point where the shank ends. So I'm just going to tie that, I've kind of cut it out in a taper. I mean, slightly. Doesn't have to be crazy. Tie it right on top like so, a couple loose wraps, then pull it tight. Then I'll do a couple X wraps through that tag and then go right through the middle. So kind of bundling all that stuff in there in a short amount of wraps. And when I pull it forward, I want to make sure I don't have a real weak link right here. I want everything to kind of come together and build up. This whole part will be the thorax and business end of the damsel. So now we're going to take some of our favorite material. We can't incorporate this stuff into enough patterns, and our customers are agreeing with us. This is the Braided Elastic Cor. This is in the light blue. Stuff has a real cool stretchy core and some really sweet sparse micro barbs off it. So it's really killer body material. Doesn't soak up a lot of water. It's super tough, and we don't get, you know, a gross amount of flash on there. So just got those three materials tied in: my bullwhip, our pro foam, and some barbed elastic core. So now I'm going to do is I'll just move forward to right above the tip of the hook, and we'll take some of our famous Grizz Frizz. EP fibers work really well. That's what's on a lot of chubby churbs and polywinged bugs across the board out there. It's super good stuff, but this is old school stuff from back in my mom's macrame days, and this is straight poly. Grizz Frizz is, so it floats a lot better. I've got a working piece right here. I'm just going to go ahead and cut up right at the cable tie. I'm just going to pinch off, cut off a noodle like so. And that's the length of each side, so that should be plenty to make. I'm going to make 2 sets of wings. And so anyway, you can see how that stuff puffs up. It's got a little bit of sheen, a little bit of Charlie in there. And I'm going to make a set of wings here on top, then I'm going to make another set behind. So I'll just take, you know, and hold it so maybe 1.5 inch wing coming out, same length as my leg. And I'll do this with towards you. So just looking down at the top of the fly, in front on my side, behind on your side, come under, behind on my side, in front on your side. The classic X wraps works really good for strapping anything perpendicular to a shank. Shank you. And that gives us our first set of wings. And so what I'm going to do, a couple different ways. You can wait and wrap through them all at the end, or if you do what I do, I like to kind of pre-wrap these guys one set of wings at a time. So I'm going to come right up to the back of that set of Grizz Frizz wings. Now I'm going to use my barbed elastic core to come in front pretty tight on that set of wings, and I want that because I want them to splay slightly back. You look at a dead dragon on the water, and their wings, if they're not stuck together, are typically in an X shape. So I want those to go back like so, and it'll also help in keeping that fly from twisting while we're casting. So I could pull another clump off of my Grizz Frizz over here, or I could just take and, you know, I'm going to cut that at 1.5 inches, and I should have plenty left over, the same exact size because it's the same piece I pulled off. And now I'm just going to repeat that process and tie my second set in. I'll tip it up again, so this is the top view in front of me on this side, behind the wing on your side, a few of those. Reverse that, behind on my side, and in front on your side. And we're creating basically two clumps of Grizz Frizz here, poly wing, to represent the wings on that spent dragon. I'm just going to advance my thread to the front, giving myself a head gap right here to the hook eye. So just making sure all the loosies are out of here. And now what I'll do is I'll do the same thing. I'm going to wrap pretty tight in front of this second set, or this front set of wings, because I want this to cast. I want to show that there are two sets of wings, make it more believable on the water, more realistic to represent the natural. But on top of adding some flotation, I want them to angle back just a little bit, okay? I don't want them propped forward. I don't want them perpendicular perfect. That creates kind of a rough fly to cast, you know, and you don't want your tippet landing on there with 40 twists in it. So anyways, angle them slightly back. The fish will be cool with it, right? And it'll cast better. So now we'll take that pro foam that we pre-tied in. We're going to pull that over for the thorax top. We save some room for a head. We're going to do a loose wrap, loose wrap, loose wrap, pull it tight. Now we've got our thorax pulled over there. And now we'll create that kind of bubbly head by just doing a tight fold on our pro foam and forming with just a few wraps. If you look down on that, we're forming that head, okay? That'll add some nice flotation. It's aerodynamic as well, or half semi-aerodynamic. Now we can cut this off right like so. If you needed to put an indicator on there, you shouldn't have to. But if you really needed to, you know, this would be your point to maybe put that guy on there. Like I said, I don't think it's needed, but it looks kind of cool, so I'm gonna leave it on there. Talk about tippet twisters, right? That would do it. But what you could do is a little drop of super glue, lay that down there. We're gonna take this off. We don't need the internet at all. Okay, so now we'll just whip it off, and I've kind of set it up so if I tie this off in that space, in this space in between the head and that little wing pad, it does line up right where I would finish off my whip finish underneath. So we'll just grab our whippy, and right in that slot we'll do 752 whip finishes, maybe just 7 or so, and clip that. Bottom looking pretty buggy, got a pretty sweet looking top. I'll do a little tweaking on these, pull the wings a touch forward just for, you know, the video, but having those, the ability for those to splay back with that heavier back end, this fly will not twist your tippet near as much as most of the ones out there. Now I'm just going to pull everything up together, give it the schoolboy cut. Don't need crazy wide wings. And if fish start refusing this or aren't looking at it, hey, cut them down a little bit, you know. But the bass have been kind of killing these things, just putting them out, letting them drift with the wind chop. Kind of catches you off guard, but pretty fun. And it's a pretty good one for a dropper. So just used a little bit of pin to put a couple eyes on there. Do this on the Larson Legend stone. Do it on, gosh, a couple of our other stonefly bugs, but it's just a simple, easy way to kind of show off that eye, maybe give it a little bubble. Morris Hopper's legendary for it. And so, there you have it. It's a pretty castable bug. That's number one, what we talked about. Having that leather on the back end, it's chewy. It'll absorb a little water. Just like the bullwhip worms that we tie, it'll have a little teeny glaze of air bubbles on it. The Pro Foam's just enough thick that you can work with it a little bit more aggressively, and by flipping it up and down, you can get these two-tone bugs. We do have it in some beetle colors, ant colors, and stuff like that. I think that will get added to the site eventually, but there you have it. SRF Damsel, 4 smallies, and we've been, oh, I got this one tangled in crinkles on, but
It's right in the crinkle zone.
maybe it's in the crinkle zone. But we've been tying a bunch of these little dudes up, and you should be too. Anyway, breakdancing rules. So does fishing smallies. Peace.